My name is Emma Brenda Anjiro. Emma is a mom to a teenager. My daughter is 14 years old. I'm a police officer. I'm a student and an influencer. I grew up in Nyahururu. I was born and raised in Nyahururu. I went to school in Nyahururu. I went to 91 municipality. Then from there I went to Nairobi. Then from Nairobi I went to high school in Kirinyaga, in Kirambu Girls. I have one brother, 4 years old, 4 years younger. I'm the firstborn. Yeah. The best memory would be probably just how I grew up, having a very close relationship with my mom and my brother. I think that's the best memory, I would say, because it was always just the three of us. My mom being in the service was tough. It was very tough because I would say the values and how she raised us was not like just any other or normal family setup. The rules and the values that were instilled were very, very, very harsh. And when I look back at it, I think it was for good. She didn't mean any harm because it has actually molded the person that I am today. After high school, I met a young boy, and he was my first love, I thought. Puppy love, I'd say. So we thought we were in love, and I thought, I was very, very, very deeply in love with this man. And I thought that would be the person that, I would start my family with. I would be with this person forever because he was the first love, according to me. So I got pregnant after high school, and things really changed for me. I was in a very toxic relationship. Emotionally, it was a very abusive relationship, physically, mentally. And so it was, throughout my pregnancy, it was not a very easy chapter for me because, remember, I'm also a teenager trying to figure, this out, motherhood. I mean, we don't have books for that. You don't have a job, you don't have your papers, he doesn't have a job, we're both teenagers as well. According to me, when I was in the relationship and he was very abusive physically, I always thought that's what marriage is. You're a good woman, so you stay. He's emotionally abusive, you stay. And I thought marriages are like that because I didn't know any other way. My dad was very abusive, and he was in the service. So I thought what I saw growing up was, that's life, that's how it's supposed to be, until it got really ugly. And not only was it physical, but it would really start affecting my mental health. And I slipped into a depression. I became very suicidal. We were having very bad fights, day in, day out. He was verbally abusive. And I remember when I had Lanisha, I remember wondering, okay, fine, so this is how my life would be. Now I have another child, and not just a boy, but now a girl. How do I get out of this? Should I stay because I want that family set up? Or should I leave? And when I leave, what are people going to say? How do I even provide for this child? What would our life be like? I would be a single mom. So it really took a toll on me. And I came back to my senses and started wondering, all right, what is my purpose? What was my purpose? What were my goals? Growing up, what was that what did Emma want to be? So that is when I made the boldest move, to just pick up my kid and leave. She was about 8 weeks. So I did leave Rongai, and I left Lanisha's dad. But I didn't leave knowing where to go or how my life would be. But I knew I couldn't stay. Chances of me ended up dead were very high than me surviving. Yeah, he would probably do something to me, or I would do it to myself. So it was not an easy period. It was not an easy period. So I left. I went back home. I went back to Nyahururu, and we had those talks with my mom, and she became my support system. I stayed. I took a break. Like, I didn't come back to Nairobi. I went to Nyahururu for almost a year. Trying to get my house in order, trying to heal, trying to find a way to move forward, because I was in a very dark space, a very dark phase. And Lanisha is already here. She's growing every month. Yeah. So when I went back home, for me it was probably the best things one of the best things I did for myself, because I went back to the drawing book. Yeah. Like, this is not what I envisioned. This was not the plan. However, this has happened. What next for Emma? Right? So I told my mom, okay, fine, I want to go to college and I'm going to look for a job. So I came back to Nairobi, went to college, did community policing. And I was raising Lanisha, and at the same time I was going to class. So I would drop her in the morning at the daycare, and then pick her after classes. So as time went by, I decided to look for jobs. I knew I was very good, marketing and sales. Yeah. So there was a friend. I used to live in Jericho, Lumumba. So there was a friend who used to do those the activations for supermarkets, and I approached her and I told her, okay, fine, how do you go about these things? How can I get a job as like a side hustle just to sustain me and my daughter? And she was like, yeah, it's easy, but it's very demanding. Sometimes you get at activations that require you to work at night. So I was like, okay, fine, I am up to the task. I just have to do what I have to do. I have to provide for this kid as I find my way and my footing. So I started with Taskies, did Naivas, did Quickmart, did Clean Shelf. I worked for Procter & Gamble. Oh yeah. I worked for EABL. So it felt good. I was not where I wanted to be still, but it felt good. I'm in class. I have some side hustles. I'm providing for my child. So as time went by, Lanisha was growing. So I enrolled her in school. Then I started working at the now DEFCOs. Then they used to be called AFCOs. So every time I went to the DEFCOs, and then I would see, women and men in uniform. And I was like, Emma, this is what you wanted to do, not what you're currently doing, right? This is what you wanted to do, and this is where you should be. And the more I went to the DEFCOs, the more it would really, really kick in. And I just got tired of doing something that I really didn't enjoy, and I knew was not what I envisioned. So I left. And I remember I had this talk with my mom, and I told her, listen, I want to join the service. And she was like, are you sure? Because I know you're too attached to your daughter, so you'll part ways for some months, 15 months. And I was like, yes, because I feel this is the next great and the right move for me. Because currently I'm not happy. I'm not happy at all. And I don't think I am living my life, to the fullest. And my calling is service. I really enjoy serving people. So I knew in the sales and marketing department was not fulfilling that, the service. So the next big thing for me was to join the forces. But I was a bit scared because I was not very sure you know, it's not automatic that, you know, show up for the recruitment and they'll pick you. So there was that. But I remember taking a leap of faith and risking. And I told myself I would bet on myself. I would really bet on myself this one time. And I did. So I left Procter & Gamble. I went back home to Nyahururu, and the recruitments were gazetted, I remember. And I left Nairobi, went back to Nyahururu with my daughter, and I started running every morning in preparation for the recruitment day. Every morning. Before she woke up, I'm already out running very early in the morning. Every day until the recruitment day. And I knew without a shadow of doubt that and I really prayed about it. And I was very intentional and very specific with my prayers that, but you know my heart. You can see my heart. I can't even lie to you, I can't even hide it. You know, I really need this so bad that I know if you give this one thing to me, I will find a way. So I remember I went to church, and it was one of the prayer requests, and I made a covenant with God. I made this covenant that I'm not asking for much. Just give me this one time. Let me be a police officer, and I'll never ask for anything else. Well, of course, that was not it. I keep asking and asking and asking. But to me, that would be, okay, fine. If you do this one thing for me, I'll figure the rest out. All right? So I made the covenant with God, went to church with my family, I remember. And we prayed about it. The Reverend prayed about it. So the recruitment day came. And my daughter would ask me over and over again, so you're going to become a police officer, like for real, for real? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, and our lives will change, you know, and I'll serve, and it will be so fulfilling. So she was also excited and looking forward to, you know, seeing her mom in the uniform. However, I was still very, very scared. What if I don't get in? But for the first time in my life, I was willing to bet on myself for the first time. So the recruitment day came, I went, I ran. But after running, they decided to only pick 4 girls. Yeah, just 4 girls. And I was the 5th. And while, you know, when I was running, it was a field, so you're doing 5 laps. So I could hear Lanisha screaming and shouting, you know, Mom, Mom. And the thought of disappointing her, that was the worst feeling ever. And I'm like, okay, my daughter is here in the field. People are watching her, and they're looking at her like, so who is your mother? We would want to see mtoto, mama ya mtoto wako wapi. All right? So they also started cheering me, cheering me up. Unfortunately, you know, everything is done in the open, yeah? You can see who was number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. So the CPD says, oh, we're only picking 4 ladies. And I was the 5th. I remember walking out of the field, and I could see, because I was in tears, but at the corner of my eye, I could see my mom holding my daughter. Shopping center. Towards the shopping center, I was like, okay. And I was like, God, how could you do this to me? Yeah, I was really betting on myself. I made a covenant with you. I asked you for just one thing. One thing. So, nimetoka kwa field nikilia. And I remember, nimetoka kwa field kabisa. Unfortunately, one of the ladies was pregnant. Unfortunately. One of the girls was pregnant. And so, she didn't get the D number.
Yes.
It's usually a form. So the OCPD goes back to the microphone and he's like, okay, fine. So this and this has happened. You can always come next year once you've had your child and you'll be given a chance. However, can we give this chance to someone else who was now the next number? So me, I don't need to talk. Because I'm like, there's nothing here for me. So he asked for the next number and it was number 5. So they're like, Emma Brenda, with the microphone. I couldn't even hear because of the tears. My face was so hot from running. Yeah, it was so hot. So I could not even hear. So I see my mom running. She's like, unaitwa. And I'm like, what are you saying? She's like, I remember she even said it in Kikuyu. Nyureto, nyureto. So I turn and I see people like, yeah, and then out cheering. And then my mom is so excited, and I'm like, what happened? So I went to the stage and he's like, okay, so this has happened, so we give you a chance. Let me tell you. I remember thinking, I was so ashamed of myself for putting God to test. Yeah. And I was like, how dare you not believe? How could you not believe? All right? But it was probably a test on my end as well. God was also testing my faith. Did you really mean it when you prayed for it? When you made a covenant, did you really mean it? And what is the intention? Was it pure? Do you really need to serve? Do you want to serve? So when I was given my D number, I learned so many lessons that day. And I remember from that day, or then after the D number, so we went back to church, of course. There was a Thanksgiving. We had a whole, ceremony for Thanksgiving. And from there, I knew I was 100% sure, just as I had prayed, as I had wished for. And what I told my daughter, that our lives would change if only I got in the service. So I got my D number. I went to Kiganjo, trained for 15 months. And my daughter was left with my mom. That was the first time I have been apart. That was the first time we've been apart. And it was not easy. It was not easy parting, ways with my daughter for 15 months. So I went to Kenya Police Kiganjo. I did my basic training, finished, graduated, got my posting, and the rest is history. I'm very passionate about single motherhood and teenage pregnancies and gender-based violence. Those are the 3 areas that are very close to my heart. Very close to my heart. Because I realize people don't want to talk about these things because, you're ashamed. You think you're the only person who's been there. You think you're the only person who's gone through this, yeah? And the first time I went public with my story, people were like, you're lying. Are you saying these things happened to you? Right? And the more I talked about these things, schools would reach out or talk to girls, high school events. And that's why I think I maintained my social media pages, because now people started reaching out in my DMs. Before I even became a cop, I was posting my photos and I didn't realize that people followed me. Some of my followers have followed us like since Lanisha. That I didn't know. I realized I never healed from some issues. Well, up to date, the issues I still have not, healed. I became too guarded. And I felt like I should fight for myself. I should, always protect myself. And sometimes it's a bad thing when someone wants to date you. It affects your relationships. Because someone will probably genuinely want to be in a relationship with you. But opening up, pulling the walls down, and feeling safe becomes a problem. probably not probably, it is one of my biggest challenges, right? Because of traumas. So it's never easy. I've been healing, you know, bits and bits, pole over the years. But if you don't accept, you know, this is the situation and this is where I am, I feel suicidal, I need help. You have to ask for help. For me, I think I didn't get to that bad point because I had a great support system. My mom was there. My brother stepped up, yeah? My dad, my stepdad, stepped up. So I was covered in that, you know, my daughter is safe, she's loved, she's wanted. So now I can go fix myself, get a job, get my house in order, then come get my kid and, you know, we start a life. But unfortunately, sometimes that's not the case. Not everybody. I wouldn't say, I don't think I would use luck, but let me just use it for lack of a better word. Nobody is lucky that much. Sometimes, you know, there's situations, just unfortunate situations whereby people don't have someone they can lean on. They don't have a shoulder to lean on. So the guilt trip is there throughout. So you find a single mom, you're going to lash out, you're bitter, you're angry, and you're it's not about the child. It's something that the dad did, and now you're bringing those issues, you know. So it's very, very important, very, very important. Not one, don't be in denial. It happened, yes, it's okay. But how fast you pick up the pieces and dust yourself off is what matters the most. For me, that's what I did. You just can't be in that corner, in that bubble, in that dark cloud. And, you know, you're feeling sorry for yourself. You look at the kid unalia's ID. Because anafana babake. Anafana watu. I went through that. And you become very unhappy. And the kid they always absorb those negative energy and vibes, right? And it affects this kid even in the future. Even how they get into relationships. They copy-paste from the mom, from the single dad, from the single mom. They'll copy-paste everything. So you find that you've also affected them and affected their future relationships. Sometimes failures are just a way of, you know, God, gong, gong, gong. That was not the route for you. It's this direction, right? So when you know better, you do better. I was very intentional when I was joining the service. If I got in, I'll get my papers right. I'll be a change in the service. And I'll be very intentional on how I handle people, how I serve, not just the country, but even be it whatever station, you know, I'll be serving at. So I was very intentional. And sometimes along the way, you realize, oh, it's not what you expected. Comes the challenges. But when you have dreams and goals, sometimes it gets, you're really not taken off the goal, or, you know, you've really aligned yourself. You know, okay, fine, these are my dreams and these are my goals. So you never get out of the plan, per se, but there'll be a lot of shaking. We have these myths, oh, it's not a prestigious job. These are people who have D minuses and stuff. Do you know those things don't get to me? They used to initially when I was a rookie. Now they don't. They don't. I'm like, you know what? I've earned this. I have earned this. I have cried for this. I ran for this. So who are you to tell me about a myth or a perception that you have? That's not on me. You're deflecting. That's on you. That's your insecurity. That does not sound like Emma. Yeah. That's on you. It's not on me. And sometimes I'm like, why are you so bitter? What happened? Because I don't think I wronged you for you to have this bile. Yeah. So I barely, to me it's noise. Honestly, to me it's noise. Tio, masanse, sure, but D minus. I'm like, okay, you really have a lot going on. But what you won't do is, there's one thing that I am learning to do. I don't let anything affect what happens within me. I'm in charge, I'm in control of what happens within me here. So I have to safeguard this, I have to protect this. Whatever happens outside Emma has nothing to do with me. You can say anything you want, hey, nini masanso wanakwanga, oh, nyinyi munakwanga. Sasa hata umeweka mpaka kwa hiyo mix. And I'm like, well, that does not sound like me. However, I respect your opinion, but it won't get to me. You're entitled to your opinion. Good, thank you. But it won't affect this. So that's a new, yeah. Since I joined the service, like I said, I was very intentional. I knew the face I wanted in the uniform and how I would carry myself and how I was going to live and how I was going to serve in that uniform. So when those photos are used and, you know, I became popular, I achieved what I wanted. And I don't think there will be, well, maybe in the future I'll achieve more and more and more, but the intention, right from the beginning, going to Kiganja, the intention was achieved. So yes, I have achieved that. And that is the one thing I'm probably proud of, that I actually achieved what I wanted. And the intention was to change the face of the service. You want to be approachable. Let's just do away with all the myths and the stories on whatever perception you have or what you think a police officer should look like, yeah? Like, we're good people. Tumesoma. Yeah. We'll have coffee with you. Ukikosea, we'll do what we're supposed to do. Yeah? Yeah? We'll do what we're supposed to do. And life moves on. It shouldn't be a big deal. So yes, I achieved something that I wanted. So I'm so proud of that one particular thing. Iyo too, baby. Iyo. I totally understand. Sometimes people are mesmerized. Sometimes people will appreciate what you're doing. They're like, oh, wow. So you can be this. It's about choices. It's about choices. I decide, okay, fine. You want to see a bitter cop? I won't be a bitter cop. You want to see an ugly cop? No, I won't be an ugly cop. You want to see the worst side of a cop? I wouldn't give that to you. I will treat you with so much kindness. However, I will do what I'm supposed to do. Oh yeah, at the back of your mind, please don't forget that I'm a law enforcer. Yeah, that's the bottom line. And I'm here to serve you and serve my country. And that was the intention. And that's my calling. Service brings a lot of fulfillment in my life. The one thing I'm known for is fashion. I love fashion. For me, fashion is the one good thing I have going on apart from now my work. I love fashion. I love looking good. And growing up, I always thought, okay, fine. If I don't do law, then I'll do interior decor or become a fashion designer. But that didn't happen. However, for me growing up, I think it just started with my mom. How she used to do up to date. My mom, she was something else. So growing up, I really admired her and her sisters. I really loved what I saw, you know. So fashion was the one thing that I remember. The first newspaper that came, the first article that was done about me was more about fashion and looks, yeah, and they were like, we find this new. We've never seen a cop who dresses like this, who, you know. So that is the one thing that well, in my many activities and hobbies, I think that's the one thing I love, fashion. So I've worked with local designers, modeled. I became a more commercial model. And so up to date, it goes on and on and on and on. And now the Mandrick group have approached me to be their BA, me and my daughter, and yeah, so I'll be doing some influencing. Yes. Now we'll leave the fashion probably. I won't leave it behind, yes, because it's part of, you know, part of me. Yeah.